and I love that percentage. When I find the discussion getting a little bit out of my range, I do remember the words of Niels Bohr, the researcher on the atom, who said, "An expert is a man who has made all the mistakes which can be made in a very narrow field." So I know that you relate to that as well. I loved our lunch speaker today, Dean Kamen, who said that he finds that the experts are the ones who immediately tell you that they're experts. Well, we've all met them as well. Tonight, before our main speaker, we are going to once again recognize the first recipients of the Edith and Peter O'Donnell Award. As all of you who are here today and heard their presentations know, we have a great first group. They are setting the standard for exactly what we wanted when we created the award that will always be a focal point of this Academy annual meeting. This award was a concept that really Peter and Edith O'Donnell brought forward because they have done on so many occasions things behind the scenes to promote education and research, to recruit the greatest minds to our state. And when we talked about the Academy, Peter was one of the first ones to step up and support the formation of the Academy. And then he said, I think we should have an award that will be a focal point of the Academy meetings. And so as it developed, the board made the decision that the award would be given not to members of the Academy. It would not go to our preeminent researchers who have already been recognized by their peers. Instead, the research awards will be designated for the up-and-coming researchers, the ones who are doing the very best work that maybe people haven't heard about yet, but they are really cherry-picking the best that we want to be the future Academy members and to do their work in Texas. I want to say that Peter and Edith made a challenge grant starting the awards endowment so that we will never ever have to worry about raising the money to give for the award. We give each recipient $25,000, and we want the prestige of the award to be the quality of the research. And we had the challenge grant of $500,000, and then a wonderful team of people came together to raise $1.5 million to go with the original $500,000. And I want to recognize a few of the people who added to this endowment to allow us to reach the $2 million mark. Tom Ingibus, the retired chairman, well, he's actually still the chairman of Texas Instruments. He's the retired CEO, but he's the retired chairman of Texas Instruments, along with Corby Robertson, with great help from his wonderful sister, Beth Robertson. They helped raise that endowment to assure that we would never have to worry about the money being there. I want to ask also, well, Beth Robertson was sitting right here, and she just left. Okay. Well, Beth was here, and Kenny Jastro with Temple Inland also is here tonight. Kenny, I know, who was also at the game, and thank you for your help on the endowment. Kern Wildenthal also contributed to the endowment, and I have to say Ernie Cockrell has been very instrumental, not only in helping as co-chairman of our corporate committee, supporting TAMIST in general, but also helping with the endowment. Ernie Cockrell, thank you. And then I got a letter. I mentioned this earlier today, but I just want to say how touched I was, and it's so typical of the way Edith and Peter O'Donnell operate. I didn't get a call. I didn't get a big hullabaloo, oh, here's what we've done. I got a letter in the regular mail from Peter and Edith a couple of weeks ago who said that they have added another $500,000 to make the endowment now $2.5 million. And I want to thank and ask to stand Edith and Peter O'Donnell, and let us thank you. Edith O'Donnell and Peter O'Donnell. And I'm going to call on Dr. Michael Brown in just a few moments to make the official presentation to the award winners, and I'm going to ask Peter to come forward as well. But let me just say that the criteria for the award is that it should be the best research being done in this area of science, one in engineering and one in medicine, by a young up-and-coming researcher. And the board got 43 nominations this year, and Betty Sue Masters, Dr. Betty Sue Masters, who is on the board of directors of TAMIST, was the chairman of the committee that made this selection, and I'd like to ask Betty Sue to stand and say thank you for that original work. And the criteria for the award also includes that the Committee of Texas Nobel Laureates must approve the giving of the award to the individuals who are selected by the committee. This is so that the standard for the award will always remain high. The Nobel laureates will be able to turn down the nominees and say that there is no qualified nominee for the standard that we are putting forward. And this year, that was not done. This year, we do have three very high standards, and you will learn a little bit more about those in just a minute. But I want to ask Dr. Joe Goldstein to stand, because he chaired the Nobel Laureate Committee that determined that these awards were indeed of the high standard that we wanted our first awards to be. And I will just end by saying that this first set of awardees had to be the very best, because we wanted the high standard to be set, and we want the value of the award to be known in future years, because these researchers have done great things with their beginnings. So with that, I'd like to ask Dr. Michael Brown, the founding co-chairman of our organization, and Mr. Peter O'Donnell, who has done enough to earn a doctorate for education in Texas, to come forward, and we will give the formal award presentations to the three recipients for the very first annual Peter and Edith O'Donnell Awards from the Texas Academy of Medicine, Science, and Engineering. Michael. Does the video come now? Oh, I'm sorry. The video is first. Thank you. We can sit down here.
Texas innovation is changing our world, curing what once was incurable, taking us places we've never been, and engaging us in ways we never imagined. Accomplishments that break barriers, cure disease, and expand our horizons. These innovations are at our foundation, the Academy of Medicine, Engineering, and Science of Texas. This year, we begin a tradition of recognizing the very best and brightest up-and-coming Texas innovators through awards established in honor of Edith and Peter O'Donnell. Tonight, we give you the 2006 O'Donnell Awards. With a background as a practicing physician in France, Gerard Carcenti has seen firsthand the effects of osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis, you have to see it essentially as a fire in your house. You have an increase in destruction of the bone. And what you want is not only to stop the fire, but to rebuild.
Gerard left his medical practice and eventually came to the Baylor College of Medicine to learn more about diseases like osteoporosis. Gerard's research lab uses the best aspects of molecular biology and the latest in genetics. In just 5 years of testing, Gerard has overwhelming evidence that beta blockers, medications commonly prescribed for heart disease and high blood pressure, can reverse the course of osteoporosis and actually help regenerate bone tissue.
We know exactly how the beta blockers act in bone cells, on which genes to do which function with which result.
These results are a huge step toward a healthier life for more than 25 million Americans and countless others around the world suffering from osteoporosis.
It's a major accomplishment because it's not only a biological finding, it's a biomedical finding, and being a physician myself, it's much more rewarding than only a biological finding.
There are very small numbers of people who are really talented, who can make really big contributions. And the fact that he bridges from the basic science into the clinic, I think is a big part of what makes him very deserving of an award like this.
As an assistant professor in chemical engineering, Lynn Liu is making huge strides at UT Austin. Her research in plastic electronics is laying the groundwork for what could become a whole new industry.
The ultimate goal is that perhaps plastic could be cheaper, and so we can make low-cost electronics with plastic materials.
Ever since she was a child growing up in Malaysia, Lynn knew she wanted to become a chemical engineer. Her ambition for her field is even stronger today.
It's fairly unprecedented in such a young person to have come as far as she has in such a short time.
With graduate training in polymers and postdoctoral training in microelectronics, she found her niche working with plastics that conduct electricity. The field, barely 5 years old, has become her passion.
You can combine properties of metals or semiconductors with the mechanical properties of plastics.
In her lab, Lynn and her staff test a variety of imprinted patterns on plastic materials by running electricity through the circuits.
These are circuits that we've printed on a plastic substrate, so it's completely flexible and bendable, and it's really lightweight. And so there's nothing metallic on here anymore.
Lynn sees a future where plastic electronics are in large billboard displays and even in your newspaper.
So you no longer have to go out and buy a paper, you just have something, a lightweight display that you can carry around, but it updates itself with the daily newspaper, for example.
With potential applications in medicine and several other industries, Lynn's research has attracted attention from around the nation.
I think this is only the beginning. She is on a very sharp trajectory to great things.
Each step toward that future keeps Lynn energized and grounded in the process of learning.
I like this environment because I like doing research. I think it's the interaction with students. It's really nice to be able to help a student achieve a certain project and see their eyes sparkle. I think that's really nice. And to me, I think the enthusiasm and the thirst for the knowledge is what's most important. And so those are the things that keep me going.
Michael Rosen is curious about how cells traveling through the body change and regain their shape to reach their destination.
The research that we do is focused on understanding a pretty basic problem in biology, and that is how the shape of a cell is maintained.
He earned chemistry and chemical engineering degrees from the University of Michigan. His PhD in organic chemistry is from Harvard.
I think he is a scientist par excellence. I mean, he is driven by curiosity. He has a very sharp intellect. The ideas come out of his brain, and he has a great brain.
At the Howard Hughes Medical Institute and UT Southwestern, he's become a world leader in his field, an expert on the smallest skeletons, which are found inside every cell. Called the cytoskeleton, this is the structure that helps cells move, change shape, and react to environmental cues.
The primary technique that we use in my lab involves taking protein molecules and dropping them into a very, very large, very, very powerful magnet.
Similar to an MRI, the magnets allow Michael and his staff to better understand the arrangement of atoms in the protein molecule. That leads to greater insight into how proteins function in cells. Learning more about how these cells perform normally could potentially help develop medications that change the behavior of abnormal cells.
Immune cells have to fight infections, for example, that are out on the surface of your body, on your skin. But immune cells exist in your bloodstream. And so for an immune cell to crawl through tissues to go from the site of its localization out to where it needs to function requires massive changes in cell shape, cell adhesion, and all of those are intimately involved with remodeling of the actin cytoskeleton.
The more daunting the problem Michael faces, the more engaged he becomes.
I think I just take great personal satisfaction, intellectual satisfaction out of taking a complex problem, breaking it into pieces, and then slowly working through those pieces to ultimately understand something very large through a lot of small steps.
The expression up and coming is perhaps already outdated. I mean, he is there, but there is a lot more to be expected from him.
The Academy of Medicine, Engineering, and Science of Texas congratulates Gerard Carcinti, Lynn Liu, and Michael Rosen, the 2006 recipients of the Edith and Peter O'Donnell Award.
Well, that's quite a film, and we're about to pay tribute to our three award recipients. But before we do that, I would like to say a few words about Edith and Peter O'Donnell, who are really responsible for this award. And I'm reminded that 1 month ago, the Nobel Prizes were awarded in Stockholm, Sweden. And this year is the 105th anniversary of the Nobel Prizes. Now, you have to understand that the prizes are presented in a concert hall in Stockholm, and following that, the entire group goes to a banquet, which is held in the City Hall of Stockholm, and there the king begins the banquet when he rises from the table, and the King of Sweden proposes a toast. And he always uses the same English words, a little bit tortured, and he says, "To the great donator, Alfred Nobel." I'm not a king, but I would like to propose a toast. I don't have a glass. To the great donators, Edith and Peter O'Donnell. And I hope we're still making that toast. I believe we will be 105 years from now. You know, it's remarkable that Peter and Edith have allowed their names to be attached to these awards. This is against their usual practice, but the award wouldn't really sound the same if we had the toast to the great donators, anonymous. I'd like to draw some parallels between Peter and Alfred Nobel. They have many similarities, but also some differences. They both accumulated large fortunes, but Nobel didn't give his away until after he died. Peter has been giving away his for 30 years, and God bless him, he's still doing it. You just heard about the last 500,000. Here's another difference. Nobel invented dynamite. Peter is dynamite. Most Nobel Prizes go to scientists who are past their productive years. You know, the average age is 58. But Peter and Edith specified that their prizes go to rising stars whose careers can most benefit from the award. And the average age of our winners tonight is 40. Nobel used his prizes to make peace between two parts of Scandinavia that were at war, Sweden and Norway. O'Donnell's prizes have also made peace. They've induced scientists from several Texas universities to work together to select these winners. There's one more difference between these two men. It's the most important difference, and I've saved it for last. Alfred Nobel never married. Peter married Edith, a beautiful and cultured woman who has been his lifelong partner and who's shared in all of his achievements. Please let us have a round of applause for Edith. Now let's turn to the winners. You've seen the film tonight. The first Nobel Prize, they're our first winners, and we can equate them to the first Nobel Prize winners who received the prize in 1901. And the first winner was Wilhelm Röntgen, who discovered X-rays. Now, Röntgen was 56 years old when he received the prize, but our prizes go to the three young scientists who you've seen on the film. They've already made important discoveries, and they have many productive years ahead of them, and we look forward to their continued achievements. As I thought about our winners, I realized that they all have something in common. None of them was born in Texas. But that's not unusual. I would imagine that 80 or 90% of this audience was not born in Texas. But what is unusual is that all of them were born in places that end in "ya." Gerard Carcenti was born in Algeria. Lin Lu was born in Malaysia. And Mike Rosen was born in Philadelphia. Which is in Pennsylvania. And they have something else in common. They all work on skeletons. Carcenti studies the bony skeleton of the body. Rosen studies the protein skeleton of the cell. And Lu invented a plastic skeleton to support electric circuits. You've seen the film, which illustrates their achievements, and I won't repeat it. Suffice it to say that these are three rising stars of Texas. Please welcome Gerard Carcenti of Baylor Medical School, Lin Lu of UT Austin, and Michael Rosen of UT Southwestern. Please, come up. Do we have any award to present, or are we just? Oh, it's behind. Yes. Here are the awards. Michael, congratulations. Thank you very much. Wait, Lynn. This is Lynn. Congratulations. You have to learn to shake hands with your left hand and accept the award with your right. Accept the award with your left. That's a talent you learn. Gerard, congratulations. You know, because of the way it worked out, I never got to shake the hand of Alfred Nobel. And in fact, no Nobel laureate ever got to shake the hand of Alfred Nobel. These three people are very privileged to shake the hand of Peter O'Donnell. Thank you. Is that the end of the festivities? Tom, do you have any more remarks? Oh, yes, Dr. Wildenthal. I forgot we have a speaker. Now that All right, thank you all.
Well, you didn't pay a bit of attention to what I said.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I knew I would.
Peter O'Donnell is up here saying that he now remembers why he likes to be anonymous. Well, let me just introduce Dr. Kern Wildenthal, who will introduce our speaker tonight. I am very excited that we have the head of the IOM who will be our speaker tonight, because it is my hope that what we have started with this academy is something that will spur America to do much of what we are doing to highlight and focus on our great research. I will talk more about that tomorrow. Dr. Kern Wildenthal is one of those who supported the formation of the Academy. He was on the original advisory board. We held our first meetings in his conference room, and without him, we would not have had the strength that we do. Dr. Kern Wildenthal, the president of the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center.
It's a pleasure and a privilege to be allowed to introduce Dr. Feinberg, and even a greater pleasure to be introduced by the champion of science and engineering and medicine in Texas, Senator Kay Bailey Hutcherson. Kay, thank you so much for all you do. There is a write-up about Dr. Feinberg in the program, and I won't repeat all that. He is, as you know, the president of the Institute of Medicine, a job he went to after serving as provost of Harvard University, and before that as dean of the very distinguished Harvard School of Public Health. His entire career has been at Harvard, and he's devoted most of that career to the fields of health policy and medical decision making. He helped found the Society for Medical Decision Making, and he served prior to his being president of the Institute of Medicine on a whole host of committees and advisory panels for that organization. He's a true national leader. He's an author, a scholar, a co-editor of books and journals, and he has done, since his recent appointment, a job that we all feel very proud of. In this group, I think perhaps the easiest way to describe Harvey Feinberg and his accomplishments in his new position is to say here in Texas that when Ken Shine moved here, much to our great pleasure and privilege, we doubted if anyone could fill his shoes at the Institute of Medicine.